there's
What
got it. So a total of 105,182 occupational accidents had occurred until the end of 2015. And this is the most frustrating thing during my research, was that there's really no recent data available in public in terms of actual statistics in Indonesia. And this is like the earliest, or the most current that I found was 2015. So among them, 2,375 accidents were fatal. So it could be death, or it could be critical, or a disabling injury. So in 2018, accidents in construction projects, specifically in Indonesia, recently received a serious attention, as the high number of accidents occurred in several prestigious projects. So your Minister of Manpower and Transmigration actually wrote some guidelines for construction of public works. But this is very specific to construction. I believe there's a lot of construction projects across Indonesia, and they reported that work accident in the construction sector was the highest at 31.9%, followed by that in manufacturing industry at 31.6%, transportation at 9.3%, mining, which is pretty interesting, is 2.6%, forestry at 3.8%, and other sectors 20%. And it doesn't really, I think oil and gas is pretty much a very highly regulated industry in Indonesia, in as much as it is in the Philippines and Malaysia, Brunei, etc. So there's really very limited data available, but I am going to use this as an example of how safety in general is still very much lagging. And you will see I found some interesting data online for the main risks, which is like the cause of the fatalities in your country. So I'm not sure which slide are you now? Yeah, here, accidents. So you can see here in table 1 is just telling you the different the severity of accidents. So catastrophic, fatal, serious, minor, negligible, sorry. But on table 2, the most interesting thing I found is that fall from height is actually one of the top 3 causes of deaths and serious fatalities in Indonesia, which means that there's still we have a lot of work to do in terms of awareness, creating awareness, educating the workers, educating companies about the risks and the hazards. What are the controls and the measures we can do to prevent this from happening and reduce accidents in the workplace? We can probably move to the next slide. So as you can see, the number of accidents, again, I wish I have the data, as recent as probably 2018 and 19, but honestly, I digged the whole Google and the whole of the internet and found very, very little information about safety in your country. The main sources that I found was from ILO, International Labor Organization, and your Work Safety Act. But other than that, there's really not much out there. So I don't know if that's a controlled document, but it is what it is. But you can see here the number of accidents But this is just talking about buildings, again, in relation to construction, and then housing, which I believe is, you know, also construction, or it may be just someone doing some roofing services or some repairs on a roof or building. And then others would probably, I'm assuming, would be other industries on top of construction and housing.
Eden,
Yes.
sorry, we have a lot of participants from construction area here.
Oh, we do?
Yes, we have a lot of participants from construction area, from public construction, from ministry.
That's great, because the analysis I found was very specific analysis of accident in Indonesian construction projects. Like, for example, highways, buildings, any government related construction projects, there's a lot of incidents in relation to falling from height. So people falling from height with no proper, fall prevention restraint or harnesses. There's a lot of injuries from sorry, I'm just looking through my notes and it's not in the slides here because I didn't want the slides to be full of text, which it is already. Yeah, falling from height. But the number one, the most common type of accident in Indonesia is from electrical shock. So that obviously is a little, outside of our expertise, but that's obviously something that another that you guys are very familiar with, and I'm sure that I hope that someone's addressing it. But it's followed by falling from height and hit by falling object. So this is in accordance with the results of another research that was conducted in 2018. So this is the latest, like I was looking for like at least 2019 or 2020, there's really nothing. But based on the severity of accidents in construction projects across Indonesia, 68% of accidents were fatal, 19% were serious, and 13% were catastrophic, which means that probably lose death. So 59% of the causes of accident can be categorized as unsafe acts, and 41% is attributed to unsafe conditions. So those two things, two very different things, but points to two different responsible parties. Unsafe act could be as a result of a person's lack of awareness of his or her own working environment, meaning you're not aware of the different risks and the hazards around you. An unsafe working condition is, the responsibility of your employer. Every company has a responsibility to ensure that their workers are working in a safe environment. Therefore, they need to provide them with all the necessary tools, safety equipment, and PPEs to make sure that they are safe when they're carrying out their work. So that is pretty much in length what I've got for Indonesia's safety. And you can probably move to the, I don't know which slide you're showing. Yeah, so this one. This is just just a little reinforcement of why we're doing what we're doing, because dropped object is still it's still a threat, and so is complacency. What we're trying to promote here, and this is the discussion I had with Dian and with Jeff and our colleagues, Mark. Safety for us is a mindset. If we are not aware, or if we are not aware of our why in life, then our mindset will always be will never change, right? So you go to work, you get paid, you show up, you do your job, but you don't care about others. And that is not a good safety mindset. A good safety mindset would be, you go to work, you care about your own safety in as much as you care about your team members or your other people's safety as well. So the mindset shift is very important in this day and age, because a lot of us have so much distraction at work. We have gadgets, we have iPads, we have iPhones, we are constantly distracted by chats from friends or family, apps, silly apps like TikTok, etc., which should not be used during work hours. But sometimes I think people still do some silly things, and this is where personal safety comes in. If you know that you are in high in an environment where there's a lot of movement, especially equipment, there's a lot of crane operations, lifting operations, and you need to really focus on what you're doing. So what causes dropped objects? There's a multitude of reasons for dropped objects to occur. And to be honest, the reasons you'll see here, or the causes you'll see here, is probably just a small portion of the many other reasons out there, but this is what makes sense for this presentation. So as you can see, sorry, I need to drink my coffee. I'm running out of my voice is starting to.
Teman-teman, kalau ada yang mau bertanya, if you have any question, please raise your hand so you can.
Yeah, I'm happy to ask questions anytime. It's not. The thing with this presentation is this is not. I don't want to just be talking the whole way through. I want to engage you guys. I want you to Eden. So this is what's happening in my industry. You can ask questions now, or you can ask later, no problem. Or if you want clarifications, you can also do that.
Eden, I have a quick question with regards to the dropped objects before you get to the, what causes dropped objects. But there's a cost. Obviously, there's a financial cost with dropped objects. Do you have some of the numbers within the US of what an incident might cost, if it's a fatality or even just a dropped incident in somewhere like the USA?
Yeah, it is in slide. What was it? Slide 7. So you will see the total cost. This is not specific to dropped objects. No, there is. So colliding with objects or struck by. So that's at least about 2.46 billion.
Is there a per incident rate? I mean, I've heard numbers as much as,
so we
$4
can
million.
always, I think that was in my previous presentation, Mark, but I can always do the calculation here.
Yeah, so estimate in the USA was about $4 to $5 million per incident of a dropped object. If there was just an incident that was without fatality.
6 million actually. So 6 million per incident for one dropped object. So imagine every dropped object incident will cost your company $6 million US, which probably I would assume includes compensation and hospitalization and all the insurance liabilities. So yeah, no, thanks for asking that, Mark. It's very important to highlight this, because I don't know if there's any business owners in this, obviously, in this group, but certainly if you are a contractor, for example, you have every responsibility to make sure that your workers are safe, or you're going to be answerable to the law, or there's a lot of liabilities involved in an accident. So I think for us, really what we are promoting is a safety mindset, and to just have that shift in the way we do things on a daily basis. I think most of us are so accustomed to doing things on a routine basis, where you do your job, you've been in the job for probably over a decade or over 2 decades, and you are so familiar with your routine that you tend to put a blinder on like a horse, where you just look at what you're doing and you don't care about the rest. And that's not a healthy mindset to have. In any big organization that you work for, I can see someone here from BP. I'm pretty sure that, companies like Shell, BP, Chevron, Exxon, they all have this, goal zero policy or goal in terms of safety. But the question we need to ask ourselves, am I actually really doing my part in ensuring that we are working towards goal zero, right? So with that, I think I'm gonna move on to, do you guys have any questions at all for me?
We're on the
Pak Roni and Pak Ahmad Firdaus raise hands. So maybe we can start from Ahmad Firdaus.
Okay.
Ahmad, do you have any question?
So there's
Yes.
one here from, yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Your name and your company, and also
yes.
your.
Okay. Thank you, Mbak Dian. Good evening, Eden. Thank you for your
Hi
sharing.
there.
Yeah. Actually,
pleasure.
yeah. Actually, not a question. Actually, just a response for your explanation about your research in safety in Indonesia. So, agree that even me as an Indonesian have some difficulties of collecting data about the accident in details. I mean, accident by confined spaces, accident by drop objects. There is no detailed data about it. But in my small research before that, I found that in construction, actually we have a lot of accident. That's why Mbak Dian also mentioned before that some of us are construction people now. Actually, now I'm working with Shell. Shell actually have a new project in Marunda, or we call the project it's Shell Marunda 2.0. It's a lubricant project now. Actually, my role in Shell Marunda 2.0 project is as a HSSE trainer in that project. I'm working with Shell and main contractors and many of subcontractors. And the point is, in my research is actually 20% of that construction accident is fall. It's about falling person, falling objects, and another falling things like. And surprisingly, also in Shell statistic, fall is in Shell lubricant supply chain. Actually, falling is the #1 statistic in accidents. Surprisingly, same thing happens in Indonesia. Same thing happened in, with Shell. That is why in the new IOGP life-saving rules, there is new life-saving rules. There is line of fire. If you do your Googling, the icon is something falling from above, like a tools also. And then in the #9 life-saving rules is also still working at height, because there is still so many people working in the construction site, onshore, offshore, still having a problem how to identify the potential drop objects, how to deal with it properly. And actually we are having one LTI in January 2022. There is 1 meter tubular scaffolding falling from 10 meters.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So so I have to sorry, I have to interrupt you. Thank you for sharing that. And sorry, how do I address your name? What was your name?
Sorry, my name is Firdaus. In English, you can. In English, it's actually paradise, but in Indonesia, you can spell it Firdaus.
Firdaus, yeah. No, amazing. Yeah, that's I think I've dealt with. That's a pretty familiar name in Singapore too, because I Singapore, in Singapore, there's a lot of Indonesians. and
Malayu.
Yes,
Yes,
correct. Malayu.
yes,
So
yes.
no, that's interesting because Shell in Asia is very active, and I'm actually really surprised that there is no you're asking me these questions, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, we've done a lot of work in Indonesia 10 years ago, so none of those actually made any impact. So that's kind of like, oh my God, what have I done? What have we done collectively as as an industry? And I think this is one of the point of your perspective I'll share. Over the last decade, there has been a lot of movement in our industry, right? There's a lot of new people. There's been a lot of change in management change. There's a lot of in general, on a global scale, there's just been so much changes. And I think with the oil and gas having gone through so much changes over the last I would say 8 years, especially when the industry goes through a very cyclical how would I say that, like a downturn. When we had a downturn, and it was, I think, Mark, was it beginning of 2016, end of 2015, when suddenly all of the new builds have been stopped, and oil price dropped to like from 160 per barrel to, I don't know, like something stupid like 90. But there's a lot of, when people are being laid off and we're being let go, the mindset change. They would say, well, why would I even care, right? If the management itself doesn't care about us, why would we? So that is a mindset that is very common in the industry, not just oil and gas. And this is where, when you said within Shell, the new construction project that you are involved in, how do we actually really get to the root cause of the problem? The very unfortunate answer for you is there's no one specific answer. It's a collective, it's a collaboration between the management, the owner, or if it's Shell, the contractors, main contractors, subcontractors. So it's every stakeholder in a project has a role to play. And that's why we have different, and this is a more in-depth, version of this presentation that we have right now, but we can go into that detail if you need some guidance from, Jeff, myself, and Mark, and Diane. We can certainly help you, because this is what we do, and this is our expertise. Is we write programs for the company, and we assess, okay, well, what are the issues you're having right now? If you have recently an LTI of a tubular falling from a scaffolding, was it 1 meter, you said?
10 meters.
10 meters.
Yes.
Imagine the impact. What's the weight of the tubular we're talking about here?
About 4 kilogram maybe.
Yep, that is already that is a
Yes.
pretty significant impact when it lands
Yes,
on a.
yes.
So,
I'd like to just jump in real quick. This is Jeff Bishop again.
Yes, Jeff.
So one of the things with dropped objects, because I noted, I think it was Ronnie that it was asking a question, and it says, how do I get rid of dropped objects? And that's kind of the goal of what we're looking to do. And because of my knowing Diane, we thought that Indonesia would be the perfect first start, especially with the group, with you having the country is so diverse. With you've got oil field construction, mining, manufacturing, and power generation. So you've got all these facets that have lots of dropped objects issues. So where we look at the dropped objects, we're looking from a point of view where most dropped objects, and this is a global number that we've learned through time and with our suppliers, it's less than 2 kilograms. So when you're talking about things that are dropping from above, you're mostly talking about, I know you had a very severe case with a tubular, but you run into, it could be on a platform, it could be a camera, it could be a light fixture, it could be a wrench from somebody, a spanner wrench working above you, but it could be a bolt or a cell phone. Or those are the things that we look at, that we need to worry about how to eliminate the need of having all these things strapped onto your body, or having so many individual components like lanyards tying down everything. So that's where we got into the marketplace. We want to do things from and this is what each one of you from each one of your companies can go back with, is you look at dropped objects. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do an audit of your facility, right? Since you're all of an HSSE background, and it doesn't matter what the industry is, you go and you do your audit first. And so we're going to do an audit, and we're going to look for all the areas that you could get a dropped objects, being either from a static or a dynamic fall. Static meaning that it could be through rust, and then it finally falls. A dynamic meaning a crane boom bumps into something. Those are, or vibration on a drilling rig. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Second thing we're going to do is walk through and looking at the suppliers of products that would help us eliminate the risks that we just evaluated. So now we're going to go through and look at barricading solutions, or you're going to look at
Tool tethering.
The tool tethering, matting that goes onto the grating. And then the final process is, once you've, just like what Eden just said, you have to have full acceptance from top management all the way down to the person that is actually carrying the tool or doing the work in an elevated area. So, and that means that you bring everybody on board, and then you follow up with training, and then you follow up with follow-on audits, so that you know that you're practicing that. And with you being at Shell, and then I saw that I know that Shell and Pertamina, BP I saw was on here. You're going to have these processes already in place, and knowing that we've all focused on dropped objects over the last few years, me coming from the crane and rigging industry, like most of you are also, that was a focus that was set up, I would say, from a government perspective globally, about 20 years ago, because there was so many deaths due to, or injuries and equipment being damaged through crane operations, that was a heavy focus, because it's something that is seen. You see something picking something up, you see something flying a piece of equipment over people or over a turbine, for instance. And so now that's easy to notice. Dropped objects, not so easy to notice, because it is a light fixture that might rust, the bolts break, and all of a sudden the light fixture falls, right? So it's a static environment. That's where we get into what you can do to take the risk management out of it. So I was reading some of the comments there.
Yeah, there's some comments here. So maybe there's someone from, was a Tangu project wants to, I think there's few of you.
An object from 3 feet is deemed a dropped object if it's 3 feet or above, was one of the questions.
Yeah. That's to TJ Pramito. Is there a height limit so that it can be considered or called the dropped objects? Yeah, so anything.
Maybe Pak TJ from BP Tangguh, or also there are some from Pertamina. Pak Mobin is come from Pertamina. And also before Pak Mobin also working for Chevron together with me. So maybe if you have any concern, please you raise your hands. Anyway,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Pak Jeff Bishop, for your explanation, and also Pak Mark. So, any feedback or question from construction people or
Construction side, yeah, I would like to hear from construction because
from
a
construction?
large, yeah.
I think Pak Ventohang is come from construction. Also, Pak Ventohang is come from construction. Maybe Pak Ventohang, are you there?
Pak Dian, maybe Pak Irwan Ataya at Tangguh because she is trainer at Tangguh.
Okay, Pak Irwan, ya. Pak Irwan, can you share your experience in Tangguh? Pak Cecep also, Pak Cecep Hidayat. So maybe one of you can share your experience before we continue for the next slide.
Okay, Mbak Dian.
Yes,
and
Pak.
Mr. Tim, we have the case every year for filing object, yeah. That's
Every year, Pak, ya.
the minimize the drop object. We can improve the material for score, but this case every year is any case. I think this case manpower must be improved about the skill, yeah, because we already prepared the JSR, we already prepared for risk assessment, but if manpower is not improve the skill, the case can be regulated any case like that. Then.
Okay.
That's
So,
you know, when you talk about the JSR, my life, I started in the offshore industry also, working offshore on BP platforms, and one of the things that we found through the JSR process was you sat down, and we all know what JSR is, right? We sit down, we do the risk analysis, and then it's filed. So now when that job comes up, we know to pull the JSR, and so we review the JSR process. So one of the things that was found through JSRs was because it was a repetitive motion, a repetitive function that the people would do, people started taking the JSR and they wouldn't focus so heavily on the JSR anymore because they all felt like they knew what they were doing. And so that's where, when I fall back on the leader of, say a lead goes out with the crew, the leader always needs to make sure that the JSR is not just, is not just I read the JSR and then we all go do our work.
Yep.
It's that the JSR has to ensure, the lead has to ensure that they're actually, that the people are fully understanding that if we don't follow this JSR, somebody is going to get injured.
Get hurt. Yeah. So I, you know, obviously in any job we carry out, you guys obviously, in construction, I believe there's someone from power generation here to mining, obviously oil and gas. We all do our JSAs, right? At the beginning of the job. So we do our job safety briefing. We do risk analysis before we carry out the task. And what happens is people are just trying to tick a box. And this is where, again, going back to what Jeff just said, if people do that, really are not consciously aware of every day you have different tasks, right? It may be repetitive, but the hazards may be different because you don't know if there's a subcontractor going to your facility or an auditor or someone else who's not supposed to be on the job left something that is not of yours, and then it becomes a hazard and it's not within your control measures, and then it becomes a a potential danger for people working around you. So this is why, again, I go back to the very basic thing of having that mindset and awareness that you don't only look out for yourself, you always look out for others as well, and look everywhere. But hang on here. So there's some comments. Lifting below 1 meter or below 3 feet can be considered as a dropped object. For example, if lifting with a forklift and the lifting load rolls and falls, can it be included in a dropped object? I would say yes. Jep, you wanna pitch in on this, because this has to do with lifting operations?
By the rule, it would not be considered a dropped object, especially with it being on a forklift. That would be more of a lifting operation.
A lifting operations. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Eden. Pak Aswan, I thought that Pak Aswan before raised hand, so maybe Pak
Yes.
Aswan.
Yeah, I can't see. So here.
How about Aswan?
Aswan,
Yeah, where is Aswan?
if not, if here's Pak Irwan Ataya from Tangguh Project, maybe you can share about drop object program at Tangguh Project, or you have any concern about that? Because
Yeah, so I see here Pak Irwan Ataya, trainer, dropped object champion. And I can kind of interpret that as if so I'm assuming that with BP there's already a dropped objects prevention program in place where you appoint your drops champion for each job, which is great. I love it, because that's what we're trying to promote. So do you want to share your experience in this? We have a friend, that's why we need to hear from him about his program, BP Tango. Okay, we'll wait for who is supposed to explain that.
Hey, Diane, can you move forward on some of the slides so that they can see what some of the how the products can actually protect
what this, yeah, we start from here. What can we do to mitigate drop object risk?
Yeah, we can start with that.
Okay.
Because I think I don't have to go through all the causes of dropped objects. I mean, you guys you will have a copy of the presentation, and I will make sure that Diane sent you guys a copy of this. And if you have any questions whatsoever, Diane is our partner in Indonesia, and we will collaborate with her and we will work with her to address these issues at work, and hopefully really have a more robust dropped objects prevention program across different industries in Indonesia. And I think, Diane, we have a lot of work to do with the government too, because I feel like a lot of this is highly regulated by the government. And if the government is not, obviously I'm just talking from my own point of view here, or don't take my word for it. If the government in themselves doesn't have, we can't even find data, right? There's no proper reporting. How do we get to the root of it? Like, how do we solve these problems? How do we make sure that, there's not many Indonesians being killed every year? Or if we can eliminate that, that would be amazing. You have families, you have kids, you have wives, you want to go home safe to your families, right? So I do.
Can you go on to forward more, because there's best practices. There's a lot of things. I think we got too much going into others and not the actual dropped objects that I think some of the guys were asking for. Can you show some of the slides further on about here? So here's some products that you can see that you can eliminate dropped objects while working in elevated areas. So this is on it's an Equinor platform in the North Sea that what they did was they used barricading onto the handrails. So while they're working on these elevated platforms, if they were to have a hammer and then it were to fly, the barricading can stop it from actually going overboard. You can see, I think if we move to the next slide, it might have, well, that's actually for mining. So on the mining industry, you can see obviously where they take the transporters from the mine sites, the digging locations, they transport on conveyors. And a lot of conveyors were built prior to regulations from governments saying that they need to have barricading from having materials bouncing off of the conveyors as it's being transported. So that's where you can take the same barricading and build walls with polymer-based, steel-based, wire-based to keep the products from bouncing over. If you can go to the next one. So what I was talking about earlier, that most of the items that are actually dropped are small items. They can be bolts, nuts, cell phones, anything that is small that can actually fall through the grating. So you can see how, and grating is generally has the same sizes. It's, I'm gonna have to go to millimeters. So I think it's, what is that, 2? So it's about 50 millimeters by 100 millimeters long. And so things can easily fall through the grating. So now there's many companies around the world that sell matting products. And what that matting does is it not only makes it a non-slip surface, so when you're in a wet environment, the people don't slip while they're working. You also now have created an opening that is only 4 millimeters. So now you've eliminated a lot of the dropped objects from actually being able to go through the elevated grating onto decks below. How about the next one? So these are another type of tool that can be used for your people to help eliminate. They are temporary work mats. So it is, they can be connected through the spanners, which are the elastic rubber-based tie downs that will then, the maintenance people, the construction people, while they're working, they can lay these mats down, and you can see on the photo on the bottom left, you can see they can lay their tools out. The components, the fasteners can all be laid out on the mat so that it doesn't fall through. So those are easy, quick solutions that your people can do while they're working to help eliminate dropped objects with these little work mats. And these, again, are sold from many companies throughout the world.
Yeah, so I think obviously those are you know, actual tangible products that you can consider in your for your work or your facilities to reduce or eliminate, not, I wouldn't say eliminate, because they won't eliminate, they reduce the risks and the hazards in the drops hazards in your workplace. But I think just going back to how can I personally prevent dropped objects, are we able to go back to that slide, Diane? It's a little further back. Yeah, this one, for example, how can I personally prevent dropped objects? Again, actively support the dropped objects work group if you have one in your workplace. Take responsibility for your own actions. Make sure that when you go to work, you know that you're going in there, not just, you know, minding your own safety, but others as well. Because if everyone is working as a team, you know that saying, if you want to go, what was that saying? I actually read it on LinkedIn the other day, and it kind of stuck in my head, but now I forgot the actual line. If you want to go slow, go alone. if you want to, no, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, work with a group. So it's basically in any environment, work, family setting, etc. If you work with a team, the result will always be way better if you work alone. You look after your own colleagues. I think if everyone has a common goal of goal 0, or making sure that each and every one of you goes back home to your families, your kids safe, I think that is the best mindset. You can stop unsafe activities by using your safe work authority, and I'm pretty sure you have that, right? Dian, is that common in Indonesia? Are they allowed to stop if they see an unsafe work?
Yes, Eden. In Indonesia, we have like a program SWA, like a stop work authorization. So there is all people can stop your job if there is potential hazard.
Okay.
So anyway, all people can stop. We call that as SWA, stop work authorization, and it's not
Okay.
only for people in charge. Anyone can
Anyone.
stop the job.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everyone is empowered to stop any unsafe work. If it's your manager that's promoting an unsafe working environment or working practices, then you have every authority to stop them. Make observations and report incidents. As little as a nut or a bolt, a screw, anything that you see, make sure you pick it up. Or if you're on your way back to your if you're working on an offshore oil rig, if you're on your way back from your shift to eat, to go to the galley, or go to your cabin or whatever, or your room, if you see something like a hammer or a wrench that's not tethered or is not being used at that point, pick it up. Just put it in a safe box, for example. Review and follow procedures always. Recognize known hazards and follow the controls in place. So as I've said, we've illustrated so many different types of hazards in the workplace. You have a multitude of reasons, and even now you can say to yourself, oh yeah, what about that nail that's just loose nails, for example. You have to always consider dropped objects in your toolbox stocks, which you have daily, right? Your JSAs, check areas, as I've said earlier, check areas after work is completed, even if it's permit controlled, like a confined space, for example. Because you can never be safe, right? It's always good to be, that saying, prevention is better than cure. I think that is really true. If you only have that kind of mindset, we can reduce so much injuries at work. Cuts, lacerations, even losing a finger, or getting a caught in or your clothes getting caught in a equipment or whatever. Participate in hazard hunts. This is very common in an oil and gas facility, like an offshore oil rig. I remember with a company, a drilling company called, they're now Valaris, but Ensco, they do hazard hunts every weekend with their crew. So they go around the rig and they go look for different drops, hazards, and they collect as much as they can to make sure that the other shift, the other person, the other group going into work the next shift will not have those hazards. So just really thinking forward. Investigate all incidents, including near misses. Near misses can save us a lot of LTIs in the future. If we consider them, like, for example, if you're standing on the rig floor and someone's doing something on let's say a monkey board level, and you drop something, it didn't hit the person, but let's just say 1 meter, something fell, that's a near miss, because that missed the person, but that could potentially hit you, right? So what are we going to do about it? Make sure that your tools are tethered properly. Or if you are not supposed to be there, if that's a danger zone, because we're doing zoning areas as well, red zone, for example, then why are you standing there? Stuff like that. Very basic, just awareness. Secure all tools and equipment when working at height. Very, very basic, very common, but will save a lot of lives. So I think we are very much to the end of this presentation. And someone asked a question earlier. Can he have a copy of the presentation? Absolutely. And I think Diane has been recording this anyway, so that's available for everyone. Do you guys have any questions? I think the very end of the, Jeff already went through the different tangible product solutions that you can potentially implement into your, work sites to reduce dropped objects.
Yes.
But I really just
Mbak Dian, sorry, Mbak Dian, can I jump in?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Eden, it's a very interesting presentation that you are shared to us tonight. I want to respond about the one of your point about participate in hazard hunts. Actually, according to my sharing before that, after that LTI case, one of the the corrective action in our project is make a special task force for drop object hunts. So we call it they are drop object hunter, and
Yep.
yes, and their job is before everybody enter the site. These guys will sweep or screen all the potential
Yep.
drop object in any elevated platform, and it's a very effective one. Even though unfortunately we are first we are learning by accident before. That's unfortunately we need to learn it before this team developed by the management, and for the make it this is a this is some serious case that we have to be aware every day. We also take the top management in our project to be involved when this drop object hunter doing their job in every morning and every evening, because sometimes we're having a 24 hours working in our
Yes.
site. In construction progress is very important. So that is why this drop object hunter also important to be involved in every kind of activity in our project site. I just want to share that. Thank you,
Yeah,
Eden.
I have a
no,
question.
that's amazing. I'm really happy to hear that you guys are taking proactive measures to, to do any little thing that you can do to prevent injuries. It doesn't have to be specific to dropped objects, but obviously we're here for dropped objects. Can be anything. Anything to save lives and reduce injuries is, I'm all for it. So thank you for sharing. Yes, Mark.
Just a comment on that is I'm interested in that step before that. So how are they trained? Who's working with those guys to be able to identify these hazards? Is that an internal training? Just interested from the whole, the dynamic within the company.
I think that's a question to you, Firdaus.
Yes. Actually, in our project site, we have a training center, and I'm as one of the SSC trainer in the project site. Basically, me with the team train all the managers, all the supervisors, all the foremen, and also the daily basis is we are do the coaching even sometime every day to every workers. But it's same thing always happen in some area. In the construction, like I said before, progress is number one sometimes. So when you're dealing with progress, it's a very classic matters, in construction. Sometimes when you're dealing with the progress, people often becoming low aware about their environment. Sometimes one of that is a drop objects. So yes. So this is the kind of training management that we are doing in our project. So as a trainer, working with the SSC team, we always do our coaching every day to every workers how to deal with general hazard, especially with the drop object, potential hazard, because we did it every day. In construction, we have a lots of elevated platform, and the number one potential hazard is a drop object. So that's what we do, much. Thank you.
Okay, no, that's perfect. That's very encouraging to hear, and that there's some structure and some regiment around it. So that's perfect. Thank you.
Maybe I have a question related with drop object before other participants will join with us to ask some question. Eden, how about in lifting operation? I mean, like in lifting operation, we perform any lifting operation is open space, right? So
Correct.
And of course we lift it a lot during lifting operations. So how we protect? We cannot install any mat in our location. The only one that we can install is barricade. But I thought that barricade is not protect 100% people in charge in lifting operation from drop object, which is only one drop object, the load lifted. This is
the load being lifted, yes.
How we can save our rigor for the drop object? I saw that some tools can install in platform can protect people, but how about in open space? Do you have like a program or like a drop object prevention plan, especially or specific for the lifting operation?
I think the only thing that I can say, and Jeff can supplement me on this because he's a lifting expert and I'm not. But based on my experience, I've seen a lot of lifting operations and lifting activities also throughout my career. We have zoning. So we have the different danger zones, right? So lifting operations is considered a red zone. Red zone meaning if there is a lifting operation, if there is an ongoing lifting operation, no one should be underneath or even within the perimeter of that area. And you can define that depending on the company. I don't know what the perimeter guide is in terms of, okay, within, I don't know, 1 or 2 meters within like the area that you're doing lifting operations, no one should be allowed to enter until that lifting operation is finished. But I think Jeff can be a little bit more specific to this. That's the only thing I can think of is danger zone, zoning, making sure that your guys are aware of the different zones. And if, lifting operations is considered a red zone, it's a no-go. You're not supposed to be in there in the first place.
Or maybe Paja, before you answer my question, I have another question. This is my experience before when I work with the Chevron. So for the onshore lifting operation, we have to perform lifting operation, but side-mop operation. So live facility is still in, but we perform lifting operation. So there is possibility for a boom fail, for example. But if boom fails, so we'll hit the live facility. So do you have any tools to protect the live facility from the boom failure? Because as we know, if boom failure and hit the live facility, it will become big hazard for the company. So how we can prevent this? Or maybe you have any program or any tools can solve this problem?
Mostly that comes down to training, obviously, and inspections and regular inspections of the crane. I mean, from my experience, that kind of incident is very rare, and obviously it's something that you've experienced. And I think certainly that comes back down to the fundamentals that we've talked about this morning, which is understanding basic training, basic inspections, regular inspections, and then zone management, which is again, why is a boom over that facility in the first place? Is it even needed? What is the the requirements and lifting requirements? So that's my input, but I think Jeff might have some additional material.
Before we thought like, okay, we put sandbag on top of the live facility, but so if you have like specific tools to protect that, I think that it will be great for the onshore operation, because I believe that in Pertamina Rokan, they have.
Do you have a lift? Do you have a lift plan or something that shows what you're trying to do and what the size that you're trying to protect? Then that's something that we would look at for sure.
Okay, maybe I will share with you personal, okay? So we can discuss about that. I think that it will be great if you can help us for this case. So any question from everyone? For Pak Ahmad Firdaus, I just want a quick response about for you. I mean, like in business perspective, a leader is a beacon, leader is a architect, leader is catalyst. So let's say leader is an architect. Okay, so if leader is architect, so in that role, leader must be addressed two fundamental questions. So first, how do you go about building an effective organization, one that can pursue the direction you set? And then the second is what organizational component and tools do leaders have at their disposal to enable their people to create and deliver value and compete in the marketplace. So I thought that leader is always take rules, important rules to achieve the success of the program in your company. So if you want to deliver or if you want to get value from your people, so I thought that we have to start from the leader. If leader cannot guide the people to bring value for the company, so any kind of the program like training or mentoring or drop object planning or lifting operation plan, if leader not take the function as a beacon, architect or catalyst, I think that all the program it will be failed. But like Eden said before, in the business perspective, value of the company related with the how many incidents happen in your company, because if you have a lot of incidents, so for sure your market share will be dropped. So people or public will not trust with your company performance. So that's why as a leader, you have to take action for that one. You have to bring your people to understand what the rules, and you have to gain value from your people. So I think that as a leader, this is important job for all of us.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Diane. And I think it's important to highlight that, when you're a leader, you have an immense responsibility to ensure that you're not, leading with action is the most important thing. And if you're a leader only in name, your people will easily recognize that, and people won't follow. You won't have the buy-in. We call it buy-in in business. What's in it for them, right? Like if you are the leader, you're not even doing your part, why would you expect the rest of your team to follow suit, right? So in any work setting, and obviously for me personally, I've only worked in a offshore rig setting, and now with different facilities as well. But if the rig manager, for example, is fully dedicated and fully committed, fully engaged with the rig crew, then the program will be a success. In as much as if, for example, I, Jeff, Mark, yourself, and so many other leaders in their own roles in their companies, if you don't recognize the role that your team members are just as important as you, then it's not going to fly. And this is where we're trying to to always educate people about, be engaged, collaborate, talk to your guys, talk to your people, engage them in a conversation, have a discussion, meet with them, check with them. Are they okay? Are they having any mental, issues? Are they having any personal family issues? Is that affecting their work? Because if you are not happy with your job, it translates to the quality of work you do, right? So again, it goes back to, you ask yourself a question: am I happy with the job that I'm doing? If not, do I need a change? Do I need to speak to my manager? And again, this is not specific to dropped objects, but it's just I think in general, how you frame your mindset to ensure that when you present yourself to work, you are ready, you're fresh, you're happy, and you can perform your task with no barriers at all. Whatever the barriers may be, physical, and I know there's a lot of hazards that we're looking for, but you are more aware of your surroundings. You are aware of the safety, your own safety, and the safety of your team members. So I'm really grateful that you guys actually really took the time. I know it's late in Indonesia. It's really a great pleasure to hear what you guys have to say, and for giving us this platform to share our knowledge. Dian, thank you so much for organizing this. I couldn't thank you enough for your generosity of your time and your effort.
Thank you, Eden.
You're very much welcome, Firdaus, and the rest of the the participants. You guys will definitely get a copy of the presentation, and obviously with with the current landscape in Indonesia in terms of safety, Firdaus, you shared that you're just as frustrated as me, not finding enough data or statistics online. I think we do have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
The thing is that, and I mentioned this earlier, I guess I need to take a step back and kind of recalibrate from what I said earlier when I said, we have to work with the government. I think we don't have to necessarily work with the government. We have to work with ourselves. We have to make sure that we're all aware and we can keep ourselves safe, right? We don't have to rely on the government, because at the end of the day, to be honest with you, the government doesn't really care about us. So, and that's just reality, right? Like if we really put it in our heads that, you know what, who cares about me? My family, myself. If I don't keep myself safe, who else will, right? The government is there to perform their duties and whatever else they need to do, but we have our own personal safety to attend to. So I think let's focus on that. Let's make sure that we collaborate, we engage with you guys. If you need any guidance from us, if you need, obviously we're not in Asia, but with Dian, she is our footprint in Indonesia. I know she's physically not there herself, but she has a partner or partners there who can help. But we are just a call away or an email away. And if you need any of those solutions, obviously this is trying so hard not to promote our own products here, but yeah, there are solutions. There are other solutions in the market. We are one of them. That we have proven ourselves. We've been in the industry for over 25 years. The product is the original product in the polymer-based barricading system, for example. And we supply globally. So obviously I originally lived in Singapore. I was born and bred in the Philippines, but I spent 13 years of my life in Singapore, and I worked there in different shipyards and traveled a lot to Indonesia. I'm pretty sure that Dian and I have met in some sort of, or we've probably brushed shoulders in one of some instances in the past, but I was a regular in Balikpapan because I was doing a lot of work there with different drilling contractors. So very familiar with Indonesia. So I know that Indonesian people are very relaxed, but also you guys care so much for family. So, you know, I want everyone to always be safe at work. So we need to do everything we can to make sure that you guys always go home safe every day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Eden. Any question from maybe from?
So I saw, just real quick, I saw a question come through about safety netting, both for dropped objects and for personnel. So I have taken a note on your question, and we do have safety nets. So I will get it to Diane, the fabrication, the testing, and the inspection standards for safety drop nets in the construction industry.
Oh yeah, I saw that. It was a little bit far back. So that's issue should be checked before make sure. How can we test in Indonesia? We don't have standard about the specification, but the strength of our safety net. So this is one of the most frustrating thing. And this is, I'm not just talking about Indonesia. Malaysia is the same. Brunei is the same. Singapore is a little different. Singapore is a little bit more sophisticated when it comes to safety, but even the Philippines, I'm from the Philippines, right? Safety is very much lagging, and it's so hard to understand. And I still cannot accept the fact that there are no specific standards to like a safety netting, for example, or yeah, there's a lot of work, but as I've said, we can work together to make sure that you guys are up to standards. You know, if they say, well, that's not really Indonesian standard, well, you are international standards and you are adhering to, you know, if you go to ILO, International Labor Organization, which covers the occupational health and safety administration for Indonesia, they actually follow a lot of international standards, specifically the USA, Canada, and I think Germany. So those are the three main international standards that some of the big companies in Indonesia follow. I don't know if it's across the board, but I'm pretty sure that if you work for someone like Shell or BP, because they're an international company, they already have something in place. But again, construction is lagging. So yeah, no, we're happy to send you some information on the testing parameters, and that's something that Jeff is an expert of. So yeah, no problem. There's someone sent a link to like a Google Doc. Don't worry, we will send you guys. Diane, can you just assure the rest of the attendees that they will get a PDF copy of the presentation?
Yes. After this, I will share a slide presentation and also recording. And this is also for the attendance list certificate. I will share to you also about how many participants today. And then there is one question in Bahasa Indonesia from Pak
Yeah,
Yuda.
I saw that. I was trying so hard to decipher it, but I could not.
The summary of this question is for the lifting operation on bars. So do you have like in drop object perspective, do you have a requirement or parameter for the lift and trim barge to avoid drop object during lifting operation on
Yes.
bars?
Yes, so barges.
Lift and trim bars.
Mark, you are an expert on this side. Can you
So if I'm hearing correctly, it's essentially zone management, right?
Bars
So
for you to say that okay, with this lift and trim bars we are safe from a drop object, from a drop object perspective.
So are we transferring load from one barge to another, or from maybe a rig to a barge, or barge to a rig? Is that what it's about?
Here is not mentioned, but anyway, this is like for a dynamic load. Let's say dynamic load.
Oh, okay.
You have like a requirement for dynamic load?
I'm sure we do, Mark. There is a specific.
yeah, both Shell, BP, and Chevron have got some dynamic dropped objects, dynamic statistics, and they have some internal inspection protocols. We can take a look at that, and we can send you something. I don't have anything specific, and I don't know the numbers, but yeah, dynamic drops is something that's come about in the last 10 years and is still being worked through with regards to the various, there's so many different attributes to dynamic load and different scenarios that it's almost a never-ending cycle. So, but that is something that's been looked at right now with some of these operators, certainly with offshore operations, with barge to boat and barge to offshore facility. We can send you something and then you can share it.
Thank you so much, Pak Mark. So, any question from our participants? I saw many chat about the BP Tangguh drop object presentations from maybe Pak Irwan, ya. Pak Irwan, if you wanna share something, Pak Irwan. Pak Irwan is here. Atau ada dari BP Tangguh yang mau share? Mungkin Mas Dedi masih di sini nggak ya? Ada lagi
Miss
yang
Dian,
ya?
Jadi live on 8 o'clock.
Oke. Ada yang mau share lagi, Pak? Mungkin dari dunia construction. Ada yang mau ditanyakan? Atau mau sharing lah, sharing tentang pengalamannya di lapangan? Ada? Kalau tidak ada, mungkin kita bisa.
There is a question. Hello, I'd like to ask something. I'm from construction company. In my company, we usually use the dropped objects calculator. That's assume. Yes. So
Miss Dian.
Iya, Pak.
Maybe you see chat another question to 2 person or 3 person.
Gimana Pak?
Lihat di chat aja Bu, itu banyak yang nanya di chat.
Oh, okay. I will try to searching from the chat communication. There is one question about drop object itu apa harus dikerjakan di ketinggian, lifting dan platform kalau lokasi kerja di hutan untuk pekerjaan pipe. Okay. Pak Iden, Pak Jeff, and Pak Mark, there is a question about, we talk about drop object from platform lifting operation like this. But one of our team from, I believe that this is from Pertamina Hulu Rokan, because they said that they work in the jungle. Yeah.
Oh my.
Pertamina Hulu Rokan to avoid like a pipeline drop object. Because there is like I asked you before, Pak. So from the forest, Pertamina Hulu Rokan is the onshore operation. There is like the drop object is only maybe is majority from the tree fall.
Oh.
So but they have a live facility ground. So how we can protect this life facility from the falling tree? Because you know, we have a onshore operation and this is the middle of the jungle. This
right.
Is in Pertamina Hulu Rokan in Duri. Thank you.
Yeah,
Pak.
I think first of all we'd need to know what the weight and what the statistics might be in terms of what we're trying to prevent falling in terms of weight. There is a net solution that we have for the mining industry.
Okay.
That might be something we can essentially it's a reverse engineer and put that over the top of a pipeline. But again, we'd need to understand what the weight, what size of objects. I mean, is this branches from trees? Is it coconuts and things, or or is it essentially a full tree limb falling through the pipeline?
Yeah.
So need a bit more information on the weights of that.
Maybe we can follow up directly to their company, ya, Mas Doni Novianto, ya. Mas Doni, mungkin bisa maybe you can give us information, more detailed information, like how many square the area, and then I mean like the size for the tree, so we can understand how many net we can install, or maybe we have other tools or other program for this specific case. Like this ya Pak Jeff ya. So maybe you can drop us an email directly, because it's very difficult for us to mention like how many area you have
Yeah.
your facility.
What we can do, Diane, is after this, obviously it's pretty late in Indonesia and I don't really want to keep everyone up late this long. But if you guys have very specific questions for us, and if you need some guidance, send it over to Diane and we will help you guys out and try and answer as much as we can via email, and we will communicate through that. And also there is one question here. Do we have to put the symbols of hazards on every area that we calculate? So I think, Mark, do you want to answer this? Because I think what he's trying to ask is, they use the drops calculator, but obviously there's a lot of different hazards every day. I'm not really sure how to answer this.
No, I mean, are they identifying each individual drops hazard? I don't quite understand the question, but I mean, so
we have to put the symbols of hazard
are they
on
physically?
every area that we, yeah.
I'm not sure I understand the question correctly to answer it, Eden.
Diane, do you want to clarify that question from Wulan?
Wulan, maybe I need your explanation maybe in bahasa to understand and explain to them. I mean like maybe like
Halo, boleh
ya?
bicara nih untuk bertanya satu pertanyaan
Boleh,
dari
boleh.
Doni, Bu.
Silakan.
Sorry pakai Indonesia ya.
Boleh.
Bu, ini kan kalau kita di pipeline itu kan sudah terpasang. Kadang di sekitar area pipeline itu kan terdapat pohon ya, pohon yang tumbuh dengan alami ya. Dan usianya juga udah usia mungkin di atas 10 tahun. Nah, kita kan tidak bisa menganalisa kapan itu pohon itu tumbang atau rubuh mengenai fasilitas pipe-nya itu gitu loh Pak, Bu. Jadi secara menganalisanya seperti apa ya? Minta arahannya ya.
Menganalisa, maksudnya Bapak menganalisa kemungkinan pohon ini tumbang atau?
Iya, kemungkinan tumbang itu terus menyebabkan material dari pipeline yang sudah terpasang dan sudah teralirin gas itu loh, Bu. Jadi bagaimana kita menganalisanya dari sisi hazard?
Kalau dari sisi hazardnya sih, kalau pohonnya tumbang ya, kalau tadi yang seperti disampaikan mereka, kalau dari sisi pohonnya tumbang itu agak susah untuk dianalisa. Tapi yang bisa kita buat adalah preventive action. Preventive action itu untuk to protect pipeline from the falling tree. But it is difficult for us to analyze when the tree will falling. The only one can we do is to protect our facility from the drop object. But to protect our facility, we need to know like how many areanya berapa luas gitu loh Pak, untuk kita bisa tentukan apa yang terbaik buat pipeline itu. What is the best tools that we can use to protect our pipeline in the middle of the forest with a many tree? There is possibility or potential hazard to falling one day. Correct me if I'm wrong, ya Eden. So
yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, so we cannot put any analyze, or we cannot do any analyze or assumption about the when
Yeah, it's outside of our control because we don't know when the tree is gonna fall, and also the only active control measure you can do is to ensure that you inspect the tree and you have some sort of protective barrier between the tree and your pipeline. I don't know if that's possible. I can imagine, I've seen some photos. I actually just Googled a photo of a onshore operations in the middle of a jungle in Indonesia, and I saw some, and it's a very different work setting, compared to an offshore or being in the middle of a city, for example. So
actually, Diane, we can, as Mark stated earlier, there are netting solutions that we can design that are used in the construction industry, that are used in the mining industry, that we can design based off of pipelines and protection of pipelines.
Yeah, like maybe there's like a frame. Or,
yeah, we could build frames with nets, and so we could protect areas that they know that they have this problem. So it can be done.
But the first step to that is understanding what the weight criteria would be.
The weight,
so
the weight is critical.
Essentially, if there has been an incident, can we have some examples of are there any photographs? Have trees already fallen across the pipeline, and what kind of size was the tree, and give us some examples so we can start to perhaps engineer something and come up with some ideas. If there's any examples?
Mark, can I give some more information relevant with the question? In last 2 years maybe, in the power plant industry, we have issue with falling trees in the electric line. In Jakarta, there is a blackout, because of a falling tree. This is only a small fall branch from a tree falling into an electrical line, and then Jakarta is blackout. And yes. So in terms of my friend's question is, I look for the probability of the trees can fall off the pipelines. Is it a bigger problem to the pipeline because of the bigger tree? I think the first you can do is making some risk assessment and those sum of the probability. And then in terms of area, it's correct what Jeff said. We should calculate how many trees are there in our pipelines. So actually, we can calculate the cost of making some fences, or let's just say nets, safety nets, and other kind of stuff we can do as a control measures maybe. But also a cheapest one can we do, like prevention. Just cut the tree when we are saw this is some probability the tree can fall off to our pipelines maybe. Just a thought in my mind.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak. The problem that I have before with Chevron in Santan operation is like to protect our pipeline operation from boom falling during the lifting operation. This is a big problem because it's difficult, yeah. So that's why maybe we can address this issue, Pak Jeff, Eden, and Pak Mark, for the future.
I think it's a very, I would say it's a very, I wouldn't say isolated case, but the control measure depends on the analysis. We don't have a context. We don't know exactly how it looks. How is the tree? What's the space of the tree in relation to the pipeline, right? So we need to have some images, for example, so we can really analyze the situation and come up with a potential recommendation for you guys. But I think someone here says fallen trees cannot be analyzed as a dropped object hazard. You're right, because again, just like gravity, we don't know when it's gonna fall, right? But it's an active threat if you're working around an area where there's a lot of wind, for example, wind factor, that could potentially, contribute to the tree falling, or, we get storms in Asia. Yeah, that's the only thing that I can think of. But yeah, no, this is actually a valid, obviously, again, we're also learning a lot, because like for me, I was just thinking offshore operations, construction, different platform levels and different deck levels, and a power generation plant, for example. And obviously, if we're working in a middle of a jungle, that's a different, the hazards are very different. Yeah.
We can
So,
address later on. So there is a one question from Mbak Wulan before we close our webinar. Like, do we have to put the symbol hazard on every area that we calculate? I mean, like symbol hazard, like we call in Indonesia, like rambu. Do we need to put the symbol hazard? So maybe they did some calculation for the drop object, and then we need to put symbol hazard for on every area or not?
no. So I think I get what his question was. So the hazards can range from a nut, a bolt, a hammer, a wrench, a phone, an iPad, anything that you carry with you when you're working at height is a hazard. But it's very difficult to put a label on them, right? It's not, if you're carrying an actual object with you when you're working, when you're performing your task, you don't necessarily have to have a sign or a tag or a hazard sign on it. But it's just you personally should be aware that that is a hazard.
Be tethered, everything should be secured to the body, right?
Correct. So everything should be secured to your body, which means that it should be tethered. If you have a tool, a tool bag, make sure that the tool bag in itself is not a hazard. It's not gonna snag when you're climbing up and down a ladder, for example. So there are so many different ways to identify the hazards, and not necessarily label them, or
Last
put that like a symbol. Yeah, I don't know if that.
I think that comes down to, I'm interpreting the question a slightly different way, but identifying hazards that essentially are at height and may become a potential dropped objects. That then becomes a zone management issue, and making sure that potentially they're inspected on a regular basis and people aren't walking underneath these hazards that have been identified, and making sure they're secured with secondary retention. And again, so there's an identification of hazards at height, understanding that it does come in within the drops calculator and it is a hazard, identifying it and making sure it's inspected regularly from a drops program, secondary retention, and also zone management.
Thank you so much, Pak Mark. Ada pertanyaan lagi?
Yes, Bu Dian.
One more question after we finish our webinar.
Oke, Bu. Saya boleh bertanya, Bu? Perkenalkan dulu, nama saya Nursal. Ya, Bu, saya seorang pelaku eksekutor di lifting ketika melakukan pengangkatan baik itu heavy lift dan juga pengangkatan ringan. Ini saya mau bertanya, Bu. Ini mungkin saya di bahasa Indonesia aja mungkin bisa diterjemahkan. Jadi saya mau menanyakan, Bu, di dalam prosedur eksekusi lifting, satu backsman, saya tuh di lapangan satu backsman, saya sebagai backsman, terus ada 2 rigger khusus untuk tagline, dan juga satu lagi mengontrol daripada pergerakan super lift. Yang mau saya tanyakan, Bu, berapa jarak radius daripada seorang backsman dengan material yang diangkat? Karena ketika terlalu jauh itu akan tidak bisa melihat daripada center of gravity daripada barang yang kita angkat dengan equipment. Dan kedua, berapa juga minimal jarak daripada pemegang tagline untuk mengontrol daripada pergerakan material yang kita angkat. Ini Bu, posisinya untuk tiling Bu ya, berdirikan material tersebut. Otomatis semua personil itu jaraknya dekat Bu, malahan lebih dekat, yang barangnya tinggi, orangnya dekat gitu. Jadi saya mau bertanya berapa minimal jarak daripada seorang backsman dan juga jarak daripada tagline-nya tersebut, dan juga berapa zona eksklusif kalau di heavy lift yang harus di barricade. Mungkin itu aja Bu Dian pertanyaannya. Terima kasih. Selamat malam.
Selamat malam Pak Nursal. Cuma ini kayaknya sudah related dengan mereka ya. Drop object ini relatednya dengan lifting operation. Jadi kalau kita ingin mengetahui berapa jarak yang harus dibuat untuk barricade, zona barricade, itu mungkin sesuai dengan obstruction daerah, obstruction kerja daripada crane itu sendiri. Jadi kalau ditanya berapa minimum radiusnya, tergantung dari kapasitas crane-nya juga ya. Kalau kita misalnya kapasitas crane-nya itu dekat, terus kita buat radius barricade-nya itu jauh, itu juga akan susah. Jadi kalau buat saya pribadi, nanti monggo teman-teman kalau ada yang mau ditambahkan, kalau buat saya pribadi berapa minimum itu tergantung dari radius kerja crane-nya. Dan kita lihat obstruction yang ada di daerah tersebut. Dan satu hal yang pasti bahwa rigger itu tidak boleh memegang benda yang harus diangkat. Jadi harus menggunakan tagline pada saat proses pengangkatan. Nah, pada saat beban itu sudah terangkat, maka rigger sudah tidak bisa lagi mengontrol tagline-nya. Jadi bisa rigger itu harusnya sudah meninggalkan daerah kerja tersebut. Mungkin itu yang bisa saya sampaikan, karena kalau kita bicara mengenai radius kerja atau berapa meter jarak yang harus berapa meter jarak antara rigger dengan radius kerja crane, bukan relay dengan ekspertisnya teman-teman yang dari drop object. Begitu Pak Nursal. Ada yang mau mungkin bisa kita internal discuss. Pak Nursal, grup HALOI?
Ya Bu, gimana Bu?
Pak Nursal, grupnya HALOI?
Iya Bu, HALOIing 2 Bu.
Oke, berarti nanti bisa kita diskusikan internal di grupnya HALOI 2 ya. Nanti
Oke, siap Bu.
Terima kasih ya.
Pak Nursal, Pak, nanti
ya,
di grup 2 aja Pak, kebetulan saya di grup 2. Nanti tanya aja di grup 2. Nanti saya bantu Pak.
Grup 2 kita akan diskusi.
Oke. Siap Pak.
Bu Dian, may I have one question?
Yes Pak.
Okay. Bu Dian, and thank you for the time. I have experience join in one subcontractor of big project in Indonesia, but I can mention the name of a contractor.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Edith. The contractor has many safety programs to avoid the dropped object, and then one of the program drop object champion are like improve to and include all the subcontractor every day join to walk through to do a hazard hunt, but the recordable incident regarding drop objects starting from January to March is 12, and one of the incident is hypo. So my question is, what we have to do the correct way to improve like the situation, because they are already conducted the training and then improve the knowledge the worker, but still happen it again and again the incident like a drop object. Please your advice and what do you perspective and like is your experience. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you for the question. I think sorry, my coffee is not very strong this morning. I'm sure Jeff and Mark will fill me in as well. But your question, you know, it goes back again, and
This is hypo ya, Eden ya.
it's a high potential, yeah, high potential incident. Again, we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, why is this happening over and over again, even with the training, the amount of training, the amount of education that, you know, your workers receive on a regular basis? Is it, I don't know if you guys did a root cause analysis. Was it the fault? Was it a human factor? Or was it, does it have to do with the actual equipment or the hazards in place? The only way to really, I don't know how to really emphasize this enough, but there should be some sort of, and I don't want to use this word because it sounds like a harsh punishment, but people should know that there's a consequence for every action they take. If they take a shortcut, if they take unsafe or follow unsafe work practices, and they're not following procedures, they know that there's always going to be a consequence as a result of their action. So whether it be someone being killed or someone losing or hurting their shoulders or hurting themselves, it could be anything. It's having that conscious effort to actually really care for others. That's the only thing I can say, because no matter how, and Dian mentioned this earlier, no matter how many trainings you receive, how many education awareness you receive, tools tethered, etc., if you yourself is not aware of what the hazards are and you really don't care about your own personal safety, nothing is going to work. I think at this point, our role here is to, you know, to equip you guys with the necessary tools in terms of training and education, and provide you with, you know, the available solutions to mitigate those risks. And really, I think hopefully one day, whoever those people are involved in a hypo would realize for themselves that, you know what, I want to return home safe to my family. And if you don't, that kind of sucks. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that the majority of the workers wants to go home safe and don't want to be killed. So that's just really a mindset shift. I hope that answers your question. But I know Jeff and Mark, do you guys want to say something in relation to that?
Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm pretty much in agreement with what Eden said, that if you've got a so one of the things that when having been in the oil field for a while, I watched, it was human factors.
Yes, factors.
They looked at punishment being a tool to eliminate the human factor problems, and it didn't matter what the incident was, dropped objects or lifting operations. And they found that punishment, like negative punishments, weren't effective in the long run, because it was seen more as a it's hard to explain, but they shifted 180 degrees from a negative punishment to, we're only going to give positive reinforcement, meaning that that's where they started doing the stop work authorities. They started doing the if you see something, say something. And then when the team or the shift or the whole rig, the operators would then give bonuses to pay the personnel for being safe. So it went from fire them to, okay, that didn't work, so now we're going to pay them to be safe. And so what happened in the end of paying people to be safe was the money became a non-motivator, meaning that it was an expectation that you were going to pay me and it wasn't, they stopped focusing on the safety again. So then
Right.
the incidents started going back up again, because after a period of time, money became non-motivating to them. So then it
Yeah.
went to, we'll give you a t-shirt that says you're safe. And then we'll give you this. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger, to where the companies finally said, the human factor is truly not changing. So it didn't change from a negative, and it didn't change from a positive. So now there's a whole new process going on. I was talking to a safety guy at BP, and the way they're focusing on human factors and how to try and get people to do things that they know they should do, but they
they're
don't do
not.
it. And that's
Yeah, they don't
exactly
do
the
it.
scenario you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And so there's no, I mean, they have psychologists that are working on this, trying to figure out
Yeah,
why people
behavioral
do what they do.
safety. I think behavioral safety comes into play in this. And I think obviously I'm not a psychologist or a behavioral safety expert, but with the experience that we have working offshore, and with what I see, just when having talks with people, like recently I had a very successful show, like a talk in Wyoming, and one of the things that I learned is that people know of the hazards, but they don't really know how to address them. And that's one thing. But if people are aware of the hazards and they know what the repercussions are and the consequences are, and they still keep doing the same thing over and over again and doing unsafe acts, I think that person needs to be, you need to go back to the basics and have a, what is my why in relation to safety. Sometimes it plays a lot of the human emotions is very powerful. When you show videos of, a dad or a father being killed in an accident in a workplace that could have been prevented, and show them, and I've seen this before, and I know it kind of sounds like, oh my God, why are you doing this? But sometimes if the measures that we do at work doesn't work, you need to touch on the human emotions, and sometimes it may work, sometimes it may not. It really just depends on the person. And for most part, I see it work, because if you care about your children, the future of your children, you want to be safe for them, right? Like who doesn't want to be safe, and who does not want to go back home safe to their families? I have not met anyone who said, oh yeah, I want to be killed at work. That's kind of psycho. If person who wants to do that, you might as well just not go to work if that's your goal. But yeah, no, thank you for the question. I don't know if that answered your question, but there is really not one specific answer. It's a very subjective, I would say it's a very personal question. And that should be addressed with the people who are involved in doing unsafe acts and doing the same bad thing over and over again. Why are they doing it? Why are they not motivated by making sure that they are safe at work? Maybe recognition works. Some people like to be recognized for their safe behavior. And maybe as a manager or a leader, you need to, there are people who, in relationship, and this has nothing to do with dropped objects, but they say in a relationship, they have different love languages. In the same way that people have different ways that they respond to different triggers, right? So maybe that person needs to be recognized and acknowledged when they're doing something safe. And if they're not, they will do something bad. Just so, if they'll be like, oh, well, I'm doing something safe, no one really recognized me, then I'll just not do it again. So maybe as a leader, you need to also be very sensitive to that need of your team members. And it's hard. It's not an easy task. But I think with discussion, with having an open communication with your team helps a lot, right? If you're having an issue, make sure that you are approachable and that they can talk to you anytime about what's bothering them. and if that it affects their workout, productivity at work and their safety, then you have every responsibility to make sure that they are that you talk to them. There is one question here in English for rigging accessories. Jeff, I will let you answer this because I think this is specific to rigging. For rigging accessories to avoid dropping objects such as pins or bolts on shackle, is there any equipment that can prevent it?
So there is the problem with because if you're talking about a screw pin anchor shackle where it has just the bow and it has just the pin, you can tie lanyards from the bow to the pin, and so as you're screwing in the pin, that's going to, and the pin were to undo, the lanyard keeps the pin from dropping if the bow is they're connected together. So the problem is when you get into a bolt type anchor shackle. So now you have a bow, you have a pin, you have a nut, and you have a cotter pin. So now if you lanyard, they got so overburdened with lanyards that you had a lanyard to each one of those components. Now it was almost impossible to use the shackle because you have all of these lanyards connecting. So
right.
There is still no great method for a bolt type anchor shackle, only because it's 4 components. And even on a screw pin anchor shackle, when you're trying to screw in a pin and you've got a lanyard, you all know that as you twist the pin, that lanyard keeps getting tighter and tighter and tighter because it doesn't spin, it just twists with the pin. And it can actually force the pin to back out because you've put in so much torque on the actual the cable that's holding the pin to the body.
Yeah.
So
we have I think we can I actually have a I've seen a product that addresses that issue, but I will let I think we can discuss that separately, Jeff, and maybe we can come up with a solution for him.
Yeah, there's some shackle types. So in the subsea world, where you have machines like ROVs that are connecting shackles to loads under the water, they have put springs on the pins, and so you pull the pin out of the body, and then the shackle pin is now, the spring is being held, and when you twist it, the pin now automatically reinserts into the shackle. So that is one way to do it. It's only on certain sizes also, because most lifts on subsea are much heavier than they are on a standard. It's not a 1-inch shackle. It's a it's a 2-inch shackle and greater. So there are some things we can look at it. Diane is very well versed with the Crosby people, so we all know them. So we can talk to them and see if they've got any new products that are coming out that could help you.
Thank you so much, Pak Jeff. So I think that we have to end our webinar, even though there is some question. You can send us an email, or maybe you can send me an email and I will forward to Jeff, Eden, and also Mark to answer all of our questions. So I thought that Pak Jeff, Eden, and Pak Mark, we have a lot of issue related with drop object prevention in our location, especially in onshore operation. So maybe we can try to figure out and help them. I will try to collect some picture and information for all of you, so you can work together with your team. So maybe before we stop, I'm so sorry, because also maybe Pak Jeff, Eden, and Pak Mark have another activity, and also in Indonesia there is late already and we need to sleep maybe. So I think, yeah, Pak Randy, maybe you can help me to take a picture of all of us and also share the list participant to me, and I can share also later on to Pak Jeff and Eden. so we can issue attendance certificate for all of you. Hopefully this webinar is really useful. And again, I want to address strongly about drop object happen over and over again. I think that we need the collaboration between the management level and also the employee to succeed our program. Without the collaboration and good system, it is very difficult. So I thought that we can make a schedule to roadshow to all of your company just to make sure that drop object presentation is really important, not only for your for their employee, but also for their company brand. You know, it's like a company brand. If your company brand is failed, so it's very difficult to bring back the brand. So I think that this is a big job for fifth element inspection and also Indosolusi Mutu Pratama and also HALOI to work together to eliminate drop object possibility in our country. Maybe we can also working with Pak Ahmad Firdaus, which is you are one of a trainer in Shell, so we can.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we can collaborate together. I will send you direct message. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Eden, for your explanation. Mbak Dian, Jeff, Mark, thank you for your time, for sharing with
You're
us.
very welcome. It's our pleasure, and I really do appreciate everyone's time. I know we didn't have enough time to answer all of the questions, but if you send them over to Diane, we will try our best to address them. And yeah, I just want to wish everyone a I think I know how to say good evening in Bahasa. Selamat malam and terima kasih.
I really miss picture first, Eden.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I'm not.
Picture first as our document. So when we start to roadshow to Indonesia, we have some documents for this webinar, right? So, Pak Randy, are you ready to take our picture? So, please.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
So I can see your handsome picture, beautiful picture.
Yeah. Already the most handsome picture I presented.
Yeah, I have a.
Pak Randy.
Are you just trying to take a photo of the screen and all the participants?
Yes. Pak Randy will take our picture together.
Okay.
I think Pak Randy's coffee is not strong enough.
Enggak, Pak Randy masih di mute. Pak Randy masih di mute. Suaranya masih di mute.
Oke, sorry. Oke, page one.
Kita bikin actionnya apa? Angkat tangan begini mungkin atau gimana ya, teman-teman? Ayo.
Bebas aja, Bu. Bebas.
Bebas. Jaya bebas.
Oke. 1, 2, 3. Oke, page 1 down. Page 2. Pak Okto. Open cam. Oke. Wait. 1, 2, 3. Oke, back to halaman ketiga. Oke, siap-siap. 1, 2, 3. Oke, lanjut. Halaman keempat. 1, 2, 3. Oke, next. Halaman 5.
Banyak sekali halamannya nih, belum sampai halaman kesimpulan belum.
3. Oke, page 6. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Oke, next. 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Oh, I thought you can just take a photo of the actual screen with all the participants' photos in it.
Okay, last page. 1, 2, 3. Oh, one page. 1, 2, 3. Oke, lagi 1, 2, 3. Oke, 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 next. 1, 2, 3. Oke, 1, 2, 3. Oke, enough, Mister.
I think that Pak Randy take a picture with mobile, I think. So that's why a lot of page, yeah.
Okay, no, no
I
worries.
have a handphone.
Yeah. So
And we can still Pak Randy's daughter behind. I
Yeah.
think his daughter is drinking your coffee, Pak Randy.
thank you so much,
No
Pak
problem.
Jeff, Idan, and also Pak Mark. I look forward to work together with all of you. So maybe I had to explain like a fifth element inspection is for the drop object company, and HALOI is a non-profit organization for the lifting expert in Indonesia. And Indosolusi Mutu Pratama is a business consultant and engineering consultant. So basically, fifth element and EMP will collaborate together. We are a business consultant for them to expand their business in Indonesia.
In Indonesia, yes.
Like that. Not only in Indonesia, I thought, yeah, in Southeast, because
Southeast, yes.
yeah, I'm happy to tell you, like this Friday I will graduate from Boston University, and I did for my MBA, so that's why.
Yay, well
Congratulations, Dian.
So thanks God, I have a 3.8 GPA, so that's why I'm eager and brave now to open my own business consultant. So Fifth Element is one of my customer here in Houston, and we work together. So Indosolusi Mutu Pratama is their partner for the business consultant to expand their business in Southeast. So that's why we work together. So if you have any question related with drop object, you feel free to drop me email, and also I will forward to Pak Jeff, Eden, and Mark. So thank you so much for your attention. So please pray for me, because this Friday I will go to Boston to celebrate
Miss
my
Dian.
people
Dian.
for the MBA in Boston University. So we are
Yes,
Okay, congratulations,
congratulations, Mbak Dian. And I think I will send my CV to your company.
yeah. I need some consultant for safety also. So basically, my company working for the business consultant. So I'm not inspection company. I know all of you have a lot of business company. So I try to run my company as a business consultant, which is this is my experience, but specific for the oil and gas. So I have also one of my team for the healthcare, for the tourism, hospitality, consumer goods. So, but my specialization is for oil and gas operation. So, welcome if you want to join with us with Indosolusi as a consultant. So,
Yes, nice invitation. Good job, Mbak Dian, for your graduation.
thank you so much, Pak Ahmad. I have to work with you for Fifth Element also. Okay.
Waiting for it.
I think the whole idea is once we're established in Indonesia is we're gonna work with Dian and train I don't know how many. It really depends on the need and the demand for dropped objects to train dropped objects experts or SMEs in Indonesia. and then you can be the, you know, subject matter expert in Indonesia, and we will, you know, obviously just supplement you with, you know, new best practices, new guidance, new recommendations, and work together to improve safety in Indonesia. And I think that's really what the goal is of this collaboration is with Dian's company. So I think, yeah, thank you so much to everyone. Salamat malam, terima kasih. I hope to see you guys again. If you have any questions, feel free to send them over. And yeah, you guys, hopefully you guys have a nice restful sleep tonight.
Yeah, and have
Okay,
a nice
thank
day
you.
for Pak Jeff, Eden, and
Thank you for all. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
See you.
much, everyone. Bye.
Very much.
I stop share, yeah.
Bye.
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 Good knowledge. Thank you.